might be another window that you might need to close out or something like that.
I have closed all other windows. I think it's not going to happen again.
I hope so. Yeah. Sorry about that. There's always these technical glitches. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I have to send you a link about telephone conferences. It's really funny. Um, okay, should we start?
Yeah, could you remind me again, like where you're going to school and what you're exactly looking into?
Okay, I'm from the Heinrich Heine University in Düsseldorf. That's in Germany. And I uh, have a magister in that's kind of master in information science and modern Japan.
Well,
And
that's pretty localized. I don't suspect a lot of people did that where you are, right?
that's true. That's really true. And I also have a minor subject, or had a minor subject that's political science. And now I'm working on my PhD in information science, and I'm doing my PhD on augmented reality in Japan, and I'm researching how to say I'm doing kind of stakeholder analysis of augmented reality. So I want to learn who are the most important people and what groups are active in augmented reality and in which direction is the whole thing going, who's going to build standards and that kind of stuff.
That's very interesting because it seems like at least around this time, it seems to be very growing in popularity, especially with the wearables and things like that. So it's
Yes,
really starting to take off again.
yes, I think so. And I don't know if you noticed, but there were quite a few major campaigns with AR in the last few weeks also even.
Complaints?
Campaigns like advertising, for
Oh,
example.
campaigns, yeah.
I don't know, did you see this Doraemon AR stuff?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
They, what to say, they are selling Pockies and that stuff
Hmm.
with um, that's really hard to say in English. There are painted Doraemons on the package of those sweets, and you can draw them, and then you have an app you can download at iTunes or in Google Play Store, and you hold it over your paintings, and then a 3D Doraemon pops out that's painted with your drawings, and it's moving.
That sounds really cool. The first time I actually ever saw a campaign like that was by Domino's in Japan, and it was almost probably 2 years ago.
Like this Hatsune Miku thing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
you,
I
you could
saw
see
that.
this. They're dancing on top of your pizza box at like a stage.
Yeah, I really badly wanted to see it, but I think it's no more available.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get that anymore. It was a long time ago. Now it's probably one of the first times I saw that AR use commercially in Japan, actually. But
Same for me. And IKEA also is having an AR campaign at the moment in Japan.
that's one of Matayo's.
Yes.
They call them the lighthouse projects. They're one of their
Mm.
uh, highlights, one of their flagship projects that they're working on right now, right? With the
But I
using.
think they have to be really sad now because IKEA has just done another catalog, and it's quite the opposite. It's the book, and it's all about how the old IKEA catalog is working perfectly well without any technology.
Oh, so they kind of moved away from technology in the next
Yes.
campaign IKEA did.
Yes. If you want to, I can send you the link.
Oh,
The
yeah, I'm interested in all of it. Yeah, sure.
campaign is really funny, I think. Though sad uh, in regard of augmented reality.
Yeah, I suppose if you have enough people, because it's still not quite perfect, and a lot of people are, if they get tripped up on the technology a little bit, you
Yeah, exactly.
kind of regress and trying to want to go back to low tech.
Yeah, that's exactly what IKEA did. Do you say IKEA or do you say IKEA?
In Japan, it's IKEA,
Mm.
but
German.
yeah, in the States where I'm from, we say IKEA. What do you say? What do you say in Germany?
IKEA.
IKEA. Also, well, we're in the minority so far in the
That's right.
pronunciation.
Um, okay, could you do it the other way around and tell me something about you? How long are you in Japan actually?
Okay, so my name's Eric Hawkinson. Been total in Japan about 10 years. I first came on an exchange program as an undergrad, and I studied at a university in Osaka called Kansai Gaidai for a year. I was an economics major, and I thought studying Japanese would be a good meld with that. Not a lot of people were studying Japanese where I was, but I just kind of fell in love with my host family and the people and the culture. And so after I graduated, I came back as soon as I could, and I joined the JET program. So I became a teacher, and I did that for 5 years. And then about 4 years ago, I started working in higher ed, and then I went back to school and got my master's during that time, and that was in educational technology. And during that time, that's when I started getting into augmented reality. And a couple of the projects I've been doing with augmented reality, I have a textbook that I designed for my first year freshman English class, and I've been going back and trying to redesign it to optimize it for one of the augmented reality apps. So like there'll be dialogues and quizzes that are linked to all the basically it's like a bridge between all the online resources that I've created for the supplementary materials
Ah, okay.
for what's happening in the textbook. So that's coming. I mean, the textbook came out, and I'm using that this year, and then hopefully by the next school year, I'll start rolling out the augmented reality stuff. And I've just been testing that in class this year also, like little bits and pieces of it to see how the students can use it and react and things like that.
And what? One question. Um, do you, when using this textbook, did you give the students mobile devices, or are they using their own?
They're using their own, but I do have a couple of iPads, 3 of them only, that I bring into class for
Ah,
students that want to use it that already has the stuff loaded onto it.
mhm.
And I find that if I hand a couple of those out beforehand and show what it actually is, it's get a little more motivation for the students, to because at this point it's all kind of supplementary. I don't require any of that stuff to be used in class,
Okay.
so it's all kind of like because a lot of that augmented reality stuff has a novelty effect.
Mhm.
It's like in Japan you get the sugoi kind of thing going on at first,
Yes.
and at least, yeah, hopefully that the idea is to hopefully get them motivated to go online and search a little bit deeper about whatever grammar point, whatever dialogue might be shown in the textbook.
Okay, so you don't worry about how to say parents that are saying my children were sent into the big evil internet while doing classes and found whatever.
I I probably should be more worried than I am, but I have in my personal situation, we have a really small university. I'm the only Western teacher working here. I'm the only English teacher, and one of the only teachers working with technology too. So
Okay.
that gives me a little bit of freedom to kind of push the envelopes of the privacy issues and using the internet and social media in class too. So I've been kind of you know
That's
trying my best not to worry about it so much and trying to use it as a tool and kind of push the envelope. But yeah, I should be a little bit more concerned about what they can do. But a lot of the augmented reality apps, they have their own screening process, so like they can't be any naughty images or whatever triggered and stuff
yeah.
like that, at least inside the app. But as soon as they get on the internet, yeah, and you can go with, especially if they have their own devices, they can be looking at whatever. But that's in class anyway. They can be doing that anyway because we don't really discourage cell phone use in class, at least in my classes, because I have them use it for uh, dictionaries, looking up words, and the supplementary materials in class all the time, just looking up websites or whatever. So
I love that. um, I, maybe we have a little time later. I can tell you something about the virtual reality project with language education I was working on before coming to Japan.
A virtual reality project.
Yes.
Was that related to education or?
Yes, it was all about creating a language village. I don't know if you know the expression, but you build or you try to build an actual city or town or small town, whatever, in a virtual world, and you connect this city to language learning.
That sounds like some of the projects that I've heard and been just slightly participated in Second Life.
We didn't use Second Life because it has such a bad reputation, but we tried out a new virtual world that was called Cloud Party, and it was browser-based.
Cloud Party?
Yeah, but it's gone already. Yahoo owned it.
I know the people that made Second Life are actually already developing a new version of it.
Yeah, I do too. I'm also in the. I signed up for beta testing.
Oh, what's the name of it again? I forgot.
I forgot too, but I can look it up if you want later.
One thing that I'm interested in for the virtual worlds and language learning is a new game put out by Microsoft, and it's on the Xbox and PC. It's called Project Spark.
Project Spark, okay.
And it's basically a game to make games.
Ah.
So you can't. It's not good in the fact that a lot of these other online worlds are massively multiplayer, right? You can have like 100 people in the same area, but this game you can only have up to 4 players on a quest, and they can talk and they can use an Xbox or a PC, but you'll have to design some sort of environment and a quest, and you can make characters to interact with and things like that.
I love that. I really have to look into this. Okay, so you are using augmented reality and your textbook for linking up the online world and paper books, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a lot of online resources that I've made already for it, and so I just basically want to use the augmented reality as a bridge to get them going out and trying to supplement what they're learning already with the textbook, with whatever that's out on the internet.
Okay, so you don't actually use augmented reality content in the books. You just link it, like using buttons or something.
For the most part, yeah, because especially with the textbook, I'm starting to change over the textbook to be all on augmented reality app. It starts to get really, especially if you're using one of the augmented reality apps, it has to download all the resources into it before you start using it. So it's better, I found, is to try and link out, so it's not so, at least, download heavy and space heavy on everyone's device.
That's a good point.
Because if I put the videos, for example, like there's like maybe 4 or 5 YouTube videos, that's easy to link out to. But if you just put all of the videos to be shown, it looks cooler, right? With the augmented reality already loaded in, you can, you're tracking it and you're viewing it in real time.
Yeah, I saw an advertising for the new Liam Neeson film like this. I think.
The new what?
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson?
This movie about the airplane, which is kind of...
a new movie with Liam Neeson.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen that one either. So yeah, I mean, links seem to work better, but we have an issue in my classrooms of we don't have any Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
So if the students don't have, actually we're in the kind of the Inaka, the boonies here, up in the mountains. So there's 3 main cell phone companies in Japan: the SoftBank, au, and Docomo. And if they have SoftBank, even the wireless reception isn't so good in the classroom, because we're on the furthest side of campus right next to the mountain. So it's furthest away and it's blocked by all the concrete buildings from the tower. So it's that becomes an issue. So if if some of those students are in the class, I try to, like, that's why I have the loaner iPads in the class to hand those out. But
that you have access to the internet.
Yeah, that's the big issue here. Actually, I just came across, we've been talking about net separation anxiety in the students, so because if you take away their cell phones, they start to get stressed out, and they came out with a new Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Have you seen that?
Yes, yes.
So, like, you'll start out on the bottom with, you need food, water to survive, and so they came out another one's kind of a joke just below that. Before you need food and water, you need battery life and Wi-Fi.
Communication as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Do you have, is there a picture of this somewhere?
A picture? Yeah, I can send you one, sure.
Oh,
I have it.
Great.
It's just the triangle with another couple of tiers added on the bottom. So
I have to give a talk next week, the week after, and I think that would be funny to start.
Yeah.
All those people from the science looking desperately like, what the hell?
I mean, it's like thinking about augmented reality going to the future. It seems like it's going to be even more exaggerated, because if you already have automatically things being recognized by a wearable and then getting information from the net, if your net access suddenly gets cut or it gets restricted in some way, it's like you're losing a part of your mind. Your brain is gone now.
Yes.
You can't even function.
I feel like this here too sometimes, because all my friends are, well, in Germany or elsewhere in the world, and I can't talk to any of them if my internet or my cell phone is not working.
Yeah. The students say that all the time. They have comments like, if I don't have my phone, I feel lost, I feel naked, kind of thing.
I have to admit, I can, how to say, sympathize with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
I don't think it's good, but I do. And you also said during the conference that you also have projects with tourism?
Tourism, yeah. I have a project called Forever Kyoto. It's we have a school of tourism at our university, and because I have a background in IT, I didn't have any prior experience with tourism, but I've been using my prior experience in IT to make websites and look into something called electronic word of mouth, EWOM. I wrote a couple of papers about it in 2012. This is basically the study of internet word of mouth, like, for example, TripAdvisor, all the comments about a hotel or a restaurant, and how that affects their business and how that gets spread around the internet from person to person and things like that. So that's what the main focus of that project is, but I've been trying to maybe integrate some AR here and there into that, especially with something called ARIS. Have you ever heard of that?
No. How do you spell it?
ARIS.
ARIS?
I think they were just bought out by Aurosima or Orosima. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that one either.
I have the same problem.
But Aurosima is one of the main AR applications for education, I think, right now. Probably because it's free and you can easily use it with your phone. But there was another program called ARIS, started by the University of Wisconsin. They have a big gaming research center.
Mm-hmm.
So they made this application where it's based on your GPS location, and when you get to that GPS location, it'll trigger a new whatever from your phone, some action or show you a picture. So it's like a scavenger hunt or a quiz, or it could be related to whatever you're learning about the physical area around you. So you have your phone or your device with you, and you go to a specific place, and then your phone recognizes you're within these coordinates, and it gives you some new information. And I think that has a lot of applications in tourism for tours around specific areas around Japan and things like that. So
yes,
like an interactive guide And you can add like things like they tried to gamify it too because it was a game project. So if you go to all the places, they can make a quest. There's like there could be like a storyline involved with it too, like things like that.
I
And you can
think
go.
a great idea if it's working and done in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, with all things, right?
You
And
can also
that,
do it for education, like chasing around students when you are visiting a big city, and you can actually like check if they really went there.
yeah, exactly. And you can get different information. Yeah, exactly. They were actually physically there. At least you can know that if it's logged properly.
Yes.
And another thing that's related to augmented reality and tourism is the geocaching. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, yeah. It's quite popular in Japan, in Germany.
In Germany, yeah. So I've set up only two. There's one next to the park, big park next to the university. I have one there, and I have one. There's one up in the mountain here, and trying to. No one's actually visited it yet, but trying to track who's going to go and sign up. If I
So
can link that into class, that might be something worth a little research. But for now, I'm just setting it up.
is it not so popular in Japan, geocaching?
Well, looking up in the possible caches around my area, there's within 50 kilometers, there's only 8
Oh,
geocaches. Is that a lot or a few?
for Germany, it's awful few.
Okay.
I once went in my hometown with a friend geocaching who was really into this, and I think within the walking distance of about, I don't know, 2 or 3 kilometers, there were like 15 caches.
Wow.
Well, it was in the city, so I think if you're going to the countryside, there are few, but yeah, I think it's quite a lot in Germany, maybe.
And
Do
there's
you know Ingress?
Ingress, yeah. But I don't have. I'm on the iOS devices, so I haven't played it. But I have a couple of friends that play it in the States.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
bless you.
I'm I love it. I miss it so much in Japan. Every time someone is sneezing on the tube, I want to say Gesundheit in German, and I can't.
So do you play Ingress?
I did install it and I started playing it, but I don't have enough time to really do it. But
So you must have an Android phone or an
yes,
Android tablet.
I have in Germany, iPhones are not so popular as in Japan, and most of the independent applications are done for Android and not for iOS.
I'm thinking about switching over with my next phone actually to Android.
I'm thinking about switching to iPhone to use
Really?
it because in my research, I think I have to use iPhone sometimes and get to know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. We kind of have to know both doing what we do, right?
Yes. I even bought a Japanese phone to be able to, well, check apps here, but I think I should have chosen iPhone, then I would have had both.
Well, you could still get, a tablet of one or the other. That's what I'm thinking about doing. Maybe if I don't my next phone isn't an Android, I'll probably get like a Google Nexus 7 or something like that.
Hmm. By the way,
And I'm
did
sorry, go ahead.
did you saw just the news on the Amazon Fire phone?
I've seen some previews about what it is, and I've seen like a tech review of it.
Yeah, I think it's out for sale since a few days, and it's I think rather interesting for augmented reality,
Yeah,
especially because of
yeah. The
the
main selling point for that, the main gimmick, I guess that you might call it for that, is I forget what they call it, but it's a
yeah,
special item. Was basically it's like Google goggles. Like 5 years ago, there was Google goggles. It's supposed to recognize things around you and just search on the web.
yeah,
So
and
yeah,
you can see like there are, I think, infrared sensors inside, and if you are looking on, I think maybe the Tokyo Tower, and you change the way you look at the phone, you see it in a different angle.
oh yeah, that's right because it tracks. It's got the two front-facing cameras on it, and it tracks your head movement. So without any 3D goggles, you get a sort of 3D parallax perspective on the phone. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know how useful that is, though.
I think it's funny, but maybe not so useful.
But there was a lot of talk about that at the Inside AR Expo when I was going around talking to all the vendors. That's one of the things that everyone wants to start doing a little bit more is head tracking and eye tracking, so they can get a little more 3D perspective on what you're looking at.
Yes. I think what was it Epson who did the tracking device in the laptop so that you can actually, for example, scan physical objects and print them out later?
I haven't seen that from Epson, but yeah, I mean, there's a couple of apps that I've seen from the 3D software makers like Maya. They have like a 3D scan object where you basically hold your phone up or a tablet up and you walk around an object and it makes a 3D model of it.
Makes it quite fast. I did a little bit of 3D creating and it's quite hard, and I think just being able to scan something, it would save so much time.
Exactly. That's something I need to, train myself to do a little bit more too. I have no 3D modeling skills whatsoever, and making it's the coolest thing to do in these AR things. So you just put an image up, it looks fine, but if it's a 3D model hovering above it, with the AR, it looks so much cooler.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking for my talk to create the building where my institute is located, and just to show, and you could do like explain the way you have to go to get inside and the stuff.
There's one more project I wanted to talk with you about. I'm one of the volunteer coordinators for TEDx Kyoto. I think maybe we talked about it before.
I wanted to ask you about it anyway, so perfectly.
I'm going to use the Matayo app. I have a license, and we're going to be using it to put up signs around the venue. So it's sort of like a informal learning environment. So like past speakers of TEDx Kyoto and current speakers, and we have partners that partner with us that sponsor the event, like companies like Osaka Gas and Citrix and what are some of the other partners? The university that puts us on and a couple of other media groups. And the TEDx mantra is to share ideas and to get people talking with each other. And in the past events, I guess people would go and see the event and maybe go to the after party and they have a little discussion, but the whole AR campaign is based on the idea that we want to get people sharing what they've seen and done on social media to try and share it in a wider audience. So basically, what I've set up so far is there's posters of past speakers, past and present speakers, and you can link basically buttons to link out to their YouTube channels, and then there's a couple of Twitter buttons that we're going to be trying to track. I saw this video here at TEDx Kyoto, and then hopefully get some discussion virtually using the augmented reality.
That's really exciting. Is there any place I can read more about it?
Yeah, well, it's going to be at the end of the month.
Okay.
If you have time, I can send you a guest ticket to come and actually to the event and see what we're doing.
I would love to go.
It's September 28th, and if you want to volunteer with our team and actually be a part of creating it, you're welcome to do that too and spend 3 days, September 27th, 28th, and 29th. The event is on the 28th, but we're going to be setting everything up on the day before. I
would really love to do it, but I have the problem that my fiancé is coming to Japan on the 27th. He's very much into IT too, so maybe I could bring him along, but I have to be on the 27th in Tokyo to pick him up.
Okay. So at the very least, I could send you a couple of tickets
That would be awesome, and if it would be possible to volunteer the day after, I would really love to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you can do that, but the day after it's going to be not very much. It's just going to be cleaning up and things like that too. So,
Okay.
if you wanted to, I mean, it wouldn't be. I'm sure it wouldn't take much of your time anyway. But and if I even can't swing, because I'm still, this is my first year volunteering. I'm kind of low on the totem pole. So even if I can't get you some tickets, I'm sure I can make sure that there's tickets available for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you might have to purchase. So I don't want to exactly promise free tickets right away. So I just want to make that clear. But maybe, maybe.
Okay. I would be very happy about free tickets, but I think I would also join it
Okay.
if I had to pay something. I mean, I paid something for Inside AR too, so.
Oh, really? They gave me, or maybe I shouldn't say.
I did it the other way around. I just came to Japan and I saw it in the internet and I saw, oh, early bird tickets, I have to buy it. And I bought them and then I started to talk with them. So that was the wrong way. So
I approached them when I first saw the event because I wanted to speak there. And I first approached them with a couple of the ideas that I've been doing, and they ended up, I guess they weren't, full along in the progress for them to show. So I just basically I wanted to talk about AR and education, and they wanted people to talk a little bit more on the technical side, I suppose.
I think so too.
So because they said no to me, I think they felt bad, and that's why they gave me a ticket.
Kind of like I have a appointment with Matthias from Junayo someone soon.
With who?
Matthias.
Oh yeah. He gave the workshop on the museum.
Exactly. And he said that Junayo, for Junayo, Japan is the most important market, so I'm really interested in him and what he's going to say.
You said recently that you met with some people from LIAR?
No, I didn't. I talked with them via email, and they have set up an office in Tokyo, and or they are going to set up the office. And the person I was talking to said that he's going to arrive in Tokyo just yesterday, and he wanted to contact me afterwards to meet. And he's totally excited about my project and really wants to talk about it.
If I sent you an email, because I want to invite them as guests to TEDx Kyoto also.
Yeah, I'm happy to pass it.
Because the people that are running the event really appreciate what I'm doing is creating the AR environments, but they're really interested in trying to create new partners, people that want to donate to the event to make it better. So hopefully they asked me to invite some people in AR to see what we're doing at the event in the hopes that the next year they might want to support us. So
I think Leia is promising, I would say.
And what you said, Mathis is coming back to Japan?
He's not coming back to Japan, but I'm email talking with him, and I'm going back to Germany in a few weeks, so I can meet him there.
Okay. I have his email too. And if I could maybe have you send along some information to your contact in LIAR, I'd find it very helpful.
I really would like to do that. What I was wondering is, when you started to become interested in this field of AR, how do you meet the other people here you are working with, and others are those more like Japanese people or Western people?
You mean who else I found that's working with augmented reality?
Yeah, you are working together with people in TEDx Kyoto?
Well, for the TEDx, that was all me. That was my idea, and I brought it, and I had a few other people that got interested in it, and then now we're doing it together. There is another person that we're working with. His name's Sagar Patel. He is an indie software developer, and he developed this kind of like. Have you seen those leap motions?
No.
Where you put your hand above. It's basically a wireless controller. It's like a mouse, but it's like a little tablet box, and you wave your hand above it, and you can control the screen by waving your hand up and down, left, right. And he created this music interactive software. So like music is playing and you're moving your hand and it's making a bunch of cool designs on the screen and things like that.
That's cool.
So yeah, the team that I'm leading for TEDx Kyoto is called the Atmosphere team. So basically what we're in charge of is creating a fun and interesting and collaborative environment where people are supposed to share ideas outside of the venue. So there's breaks and lunches and the after party. So that's why he got involved with the team, and so he's been helping me with the AR stuff as well. So.
Oh, that's cool. But how many people are in this team?
Right now we have only 5.
Wow.
And we had more, but a couple people, time and I guess that happens. But a couple people had life happen and drop out. So we're mostly all foreigners and working on that particular team. And we'll have volunteers the day of from different universities. The TEDx Kyoto will have hundreds of volunteers from the university just, to guide people and help people around. And a couple of them will volunteer for our team. And basically all they'll do is they'll roam around the trigger exhibits and see if people might be interested or help them out and things like that with the app. Yeah, it's a lot of work. That's 3 weeks away, and I still have a lot of stuff to do for that. So yeah, hopefully it all works out.
I will, how to say, keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that.
In Germany, we say with my thumbs, like this.
So yeah, maybe I can send you the link to the AR stuff, and maybe you can test it out for us or something like that.
I would love to. If I may ask some more questions, do you think that data protection and this privacy discourse is, especially with regard to augmented reality, important?
Privacy issues and data security?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, all these problems are, I think, being amplified by augmented reality because it's kind of ubiquitous and almost always on. So, for example, if you have Google Glass, you can tell it to take a picture, but at any time it can be taking in data, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to have extra security, I think, in place because you miss intentionally, like, for example, all that stuff recently with the iCloud hacking. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I heard about it.
And those people, half of them probably didn't even intentionally upload their pictures to the cloud. It just happened automatically for them, and they didn't even know that it was out there, not on their phone. So those kind of issues are amplified even further if you're having wearables or constantly scanning, taking in data with your camera to find triggers to augment.
Yes, and all this position tracking, I think, is important too. On the other hand, the cell phones are doing that anyway.
Yeah. So I think maybe this just came into my mind. Like maybe for security reasons, you can set up like a geo area. For example, this is where your house is, and your phone cannot take in data while you're in that area, kind of thing. Make like a geocode security lock kind of thing. I don't know.
I think you could do it with how are these tags called? NFC tags.
Okay. Yeah.
Just saying deactivate whatever when entering this area. But I think it's kind of exciting. Do you know if there's a big discussion in Japan about this data issue?
I recently, not around here, like I said, I'm one of the only people working with technology in my school, but if you might remember at the Inside AR event, one of the speakers was, I think his name is Professor Kato.
Yes.
He works at the Nara Institute of Technology, and he's one of the godfathers of AR. He invented the AR toolkit, what was that, 12, 15 years ago? And he spoke there, and he mentioned the augmented reality conference there in Nara, and I attended that virtually. And I watched the whole thing, and the majority of discussions and questions that they were asking were about fair access to information and security. That was pretty much on everybody's mind. So people that are in the field, it seems like that's on the forefront of everybody's attention, but people that are a little bit ignorant or new to the technology, I don't think are really aware of how those issues will affect them at all.
In Germany, it's exactly the other way around. It's data protection and security issues are, I think, if you are saying something, or if you start a discussion about social media or AR or whatever, it's the first thing people think about.
Well, yeah, well, Japan, I kind of wrote an article about this a long time ago, the acceptance of new technology and its relation to culture.
Yes.
So that goes against with, I forgot, Gagne's cultural points of difference. So Japan, for example, Japan compared to the United States has a very different view of ambiguity. Japan has a very low tolerance for ambiguity, and Americans have a very high tolerance for it. Well, maybe one of the reasons might be is because of all the disasters that happen in Japan, and everyone needs to have a plan and what to do if this happens, and everything written out beforehand. You can't just play it by ear, right? So that was one of the reasons I argued that it took a couple extra years for Facebook to take off in Japan, is because they weren't sure about being able to keep their privacy, and there was also kind of like this feeling that the wall between Japan and the world would be broken, and then their profiles would be able to be seen by everyone, not just people in Japan. And it's very interesting to see the use, because before that, the biggest social media outlet in Japan was called Mixi, which is pretty much died out now. But the way people use it was very interesting too. Like Mixi, people for their profile pictures would be either a plate of food or a stuffed animal or some object around their house. And in Facebook, pretty much people are, like I said, okay with the ambiguity of people that don't know seeing their face. And switching over to Facebook, seeing other people do that and feeling a little more safer maybe because other people are doing it. It slowly kind of went that way.
Do you think Line is a how to say, concurrence for Facebook?
Competition?
Yes, exactly.
Line is interesting because that's a Korean company, and
I read that it's a Japanese company.
It's made by Naver. That's a Korean company, but Line was only really popular in Japan. It was by the same company that I think it was the same company. Maybe I have to double check that. But Kakao Talk, have you heard about that one?
No.
I think that was the original application, but they made another one, and it just took off in Japan. So they targeted Japan pretty highly, and now it's starting to spread over to some of the other countries.
I really check on it, because I really read that Line was invented and related to Fukuchima and the earthquake and the triple disaster.
Yeah, I haven't really read about any of that.
Well, it's not related to augmented reality, actually.
Well, yeah. But I can tell you that my students all use Line, and if I want to contact them, it's the best way to contact them. So instead of, like, if I were teaching in America, for our class, I'd make a Facebook group and then post information, and everyone would see it, or maybe a messenger or something like that. But my students, I make a Line group, and if I want to make an announcement to all my students, I'll just post a short message to Line, and everybody will get it.
I'm using Line too here for communicating. You are lost without it, I think.
Actually, I got my own stickers coming out soon. Maybe I could send you a link to that.
Oh yes, please. I love stickers. Quite embarrassing. You said you wrote an article about the acceptance of technology.
No, it wasn't really an article, but I wrote about it in the setup for the articles I wrote about um, EWAM, the spread of information word of mouth in Japan, and about internet marketing in Japan. So I wrote a little bit about that in those articles. So yeah.
Could you send me those articles, or can I find
Sure.
them?
You can. Yeah. I mean, I can send you a link. All my stuff I put available on to the public on academia.edu and Mendeley and all those research sites. I try to put it out as much as possible, but you know, I'm not a well-known researcher. I'm kind of new to this myself too. So.
So am I. But I'm really interested. And one more question. You said that during this conference in Nara, the people were also talking or asking about the right for access to information.
Oh yeah, and the NARA conference that I watched. Yeah, they started up a long conversation about the need to have equal access to the internet as we move forward into augmented reality. They were concerned about widening the the inequality of information availability, and for example, if I have to pay a lot of money for the highest access to information in AR, and I get updated information about everything I'm seeing, and someone else can't, that would put somebody at a real, hard disadvantage in almost all aspects of life. And they were kind of going back. I don't remember specific comments, but that was the general discussion that they were having.
I'm very interested in this area too, so I was really curious. I have to research. Maybe there's documentation of the conference.
I know they broadcasted it live. Maybe I can find a link for you, because I think it was either on live stream or the other Japanese live stream website. I forget which one, but I don't know if they archived it or not.
That would be really great.
Yeah, some of those talks are pretty interesting. There was all techie, so like they were all talking about new technologies that they were developing. One that I just remember offhand is a projector that somebody put on their head mount, and it would project something on their palm.
Okay.
And then they could just move their fingers and for different access to something. So, for example, you want to go up, down, left, right. So your menu would like point to different things on your hand, and you would choose it with your hand or things like that.
That's cool. But I can't imagine. Well, if you are going to wear Google Glasses anyway, you could implement something like this too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just overlay it on top of your hand, right? If you're doing something with the glasses or something like that, yeah.
Yes. Let me check.
Sure.
I have one bigger question, I think, or it's more like two bigger questions left. The one is, no, three. The one is, do you think that Metaio is an important player in augmented reality in Japan?
Well, I know that they're making the biggest inroads. I see Janayo being used in more instances than any other application. I have something right here, actually. I can show you.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes.
This is a travel brochure for a city that I've been working with my tourism activity. It's called Yabu. It's very Inaka town, and even in this small countryside town, they have. You see that on the back there?
Yeah, I see.
It's a QR code for a Janayo channel.
Could you scan that brochure for me? I would love.
Oh, you want a copy of this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, I'm putting so much work on your table.
I mean, yeah. If I don't get everything, you'll have to remind me what I miss. Okay. So. But yeah, I mean, and I saw this being used in one other place too. So I think one of the main reasons for this is the cybernet. People are doing a lot with the facilitation in the Japanese language. they're doing a lot of promotion for them. So I think that's one of the big things. And I presented like 3 or 4 times this year at different educational conferences about using AR in education, and I was the only one presenting on it. So even for foreign teachers, this is probably something that's not being used very much. There's a lot of teachers interested in it, but no one's really doing any, practical research or trying it out in their classrooms that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
What I have seen is when that first set of technologies came out 10 years ago, there was some research done with the AR toolkit that was invented by, I hope I'm not messing up his name. I think his name is Professor Kato. I'm not quite sure now.
Kato is definitely right. I'm not sure about the surname.
So yeah, some people were using that with webcams with the computers,
Mm-hmm.
and using it for engineering, showing parts and things like that. But now that the cell phones have gotten to that point, I think that's kind of gotten to a critical mass point as far as the technology inside our phones, and now we're starting to see this be more used on a more wide scale. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And what I found, and I think it's very interesting, is that AR is already used in women magazines for clothing and that stuff. And I think it's funny because it's not labeled as augmented reality. It's just being introduced as a new feature for your phone.
when I give augmented reality talks, I always talk about augmented reality possibly coming the 8th mass medium. And there's actually a couple of talks online about that. One in particular is a TED Talk. So like up until now we have 7 mass mediums, right? I think one of the first was stone tablets or whatever, and then we move in a little further into the future with newspapers and books, and then television, radio, the internet, and then the last one was mobile. And if you see that on a time scale, it's just accelerating, right? So between internet and mobile, there was only 10 years. Like between books and television, that was over a century, or centuries. And so time-wise, we're overdue for one, right? Because it's been 10 years since that area's come out. So some people are arguing that augmented reality is going to be the next mass medium. Like everyone's going to get all their information through augmented pieces of the world around them. So.
I think so, maybe. Do you know, I'm sure you do, this Tom Cruise movie, how is it called? Everybody is making a sample of this movie when they are talking about augmented reality.
Oh, the Minority Report.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was one of the first things, like you move around the screen with, you can do that actually with that leap motion I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I got one around here somewhere, actually. Might be able to show you one.
Yeah, please.
So yeah, that's called the leap motion. Mm-hmm. It's a little box bar you put in front of your computer and you hover your hand over it. It's an infrared sensor. You put that in front and you hover your hand above it, and it detects motion and movement, and you skeleton your fingers and you can move it around. So now I've tested it out, so it has a plane here too, so you can use it just like you in that movie Minority Report. So if you want to close something, you just go boot, boot, boot. But I used it for about 4 hours, and I just gave up because I have a touchscreen and I could just go boop, boop, boop anyway. So it's not. I didn't find it that useful for what I was doing. But there's one teacher that is working with telemedicine, telefitness. So this might have some, we're talking about maybe having some kind of medical application where you can, it will test your range of motion and things like that for if the doctor's not around or something like that.
Feeling like this when I was testing glasses for I think Brilliant service on Inside AR, where you could take photos with
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I forgot the name of that particular one, but yeah, it had front-facing
Hmm.
cameras too to detect, and you take
Yes,
pictures by doing that motion. That was fun.
it was really fun, but I was not very good with it.
I found myself a natural. I just did it. I went through the whole demo and straight off first time, no problem.
I think maybe I was just too nervous because everything was new and talking Japanese to Japanese people,
Mm.
and I was quite. um, okay, the next question, it's from the questionnaire you did, because you said that you are worried about the control by providers.
Oh, talking about digital rights management,
Yes.
more or less. Yeah, because I worked a little bit with ebooks two
Mhm.
years ago, making some ebooks, and I kept running into walls because everyone, especially Amazon's notorious for this, trying to create ways to control media. I mean, iTunes is probably another good example of this. I mean, if you don't have an Apple device, you can't use, I mean, let's say you buy music on your iPhone, you can't use it anywhere else. So I'm worried that these companies like Google's pretty neutral, have been in the past and recently, but they'll probably do only Android stuff maybe, and then iOS will come out. They just announced their watch yesterday. Did you see
Mhm.
that?
Yes.
So there's probably only a matter of time before they start doing some kind of head-mounted display, and then again we'll have some fractured data and people trying to control the market and data because that's where the money is. That's controlling the content and
Mhm.
uh, and if you have a small head-mounted display, you don't have a lot of storage space, so that's all
In the cloud.
in the cloud. So that means it's controlled by Apple or Google or whatever. So let's say you stop making payments or you lose access. That means that anything that you've put in, everything you've bought up to that point, if it's on that platform, you won't have access to it. And I have an issue with that.
I can understand it. But do you think, for example, that companies like, I think you can say that Metaio is kind of trying to set a standard for, well, access to augmented reality, and they kind of are controlling the content you put up there too.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, because I was talking with a couple of the people there, and they did mention that they look at everything that's put on the public servers and make sure that at least that there's nothing naughty or something like that.
Yeah, I asked exactly after uh, if they're trying or if they're worried about, for example, pornographic content or something, and they said, yeah, we are looking into the apps and checking if they go along with the company's how to say values.
So yeah, I mean, as a person wanting to get their information out too, this is a net neutrality issue, and that's another wall, right? So let's say I'm an educator and I have some controversial topics I want to show my students. If somebody in Matayo disagrees with that, they can just shut my augmented reality components down, and they won't be able to be used at all, right? So, oh yeah,
Yeah, I think I was just thinking like if I'm going to upload any content by Mateo that's used in Japan, I'm under the German law, I'm under the international law, the Japanese law. Then if I'm going to download it via Google or Apple, they are in too, and then there's Mateo as well.
yeah.
So
There's a whole yeah. And each one of those companies has an agreement that's 10 miles long, so they can all apply, or one of them can apply. Yeah, so
yeah.
we're slowly losing. So yeah, that's because user-generated content is like the key because everyone's broadcasting their own stuff these days, right? And
Mm.
YouTube is getting pretty better about that too, but being able to put ads in it and being able to get at least some revenue from your own content, things like that. So,
Do you think that's with AR also a big issue, the user generated content?
oh, you mean being able to market and use user-generated content?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, if these companies I think probably the company that's able to get the most user-generated content made will probably win out, because that's where, a company can't make everything, right? So let's say Google makes some sort of platform to make augmented reality for their Google Glass, and millions of people upload content. So like now you go to the supermarket and you can see almost anything augmented. That's going to win out because it has a network of scale attached to it.
Yes.
So companies are going to be at least have some incentive to have open and free access to at least create it, and then they're going to try and control it as best they can.
Yeah,
I think
so too, and I think it's quite scary. I heard, for example, that the most valuable part of Amazon is not the technology and it's not the things that they are selling, but the users' comments to it.
Yeah, well, like I said, the word of mouth stuff that I looked into a while back, and a lot of people trust the content written by other users much more highly than what they trust, the seller or the website says. So these days, if you don't have user-generated comments, it's almost unbelievable, right? And now it's even getting to the point where companies have gotten aware of that fact, so now they're kind of starting to plant their own 5-star ratings, in there from time to time. And Amazon has actually found a few people that were doing that and cut them off from being able to sell. But
Yes.
When I went to Korea and talked about AR, that was a big issue there too, because all the people were so savvy about that there is you couldn't even trust the user-generated stuff because they're all trying to, make their own stuff look good.
Yes, I think we have the same discussion in Germany as well. Then I have one last. It's not really a question, but as I told you, I'm trying to analyze which stakeholders there are in augmented reality. And would you maybe I wanted to ask you, what do you think, what are the main stakeholders in Japan in referring to augmented reality? And I did a small Google document to fill out.
Oh, you want me to fill out something, or?
Yes, it's just only the main things that are coming to your mind, if you agree with it.
Stakeholders as in providers and consumers?
Yes, and like, I don't know, maybe TEDx is, for example, a stakeholder too, or a smaller.
Oh, you mean
one.
not in a broad sense, but like particular companies and things like that?
If you think that there's a company that's really important, then this company, but not a list of companies, if you know what I mean. Like,
Well, for I could just off the top of my head, advertising, gaming, education, tourism, all those are probably on the consumer side and the creator side, probably big stakeholders. But then there's also on the tech side too, right? So then you have like the companies making all the heads-up displays and the technology and the smartphone people and the software designers and engineers are also on that side of things too.
Yeah.
But,
or like groups for the personal data or the free access for information or net neutrality. Those are stakeholders too, I think.
oh yeah, for policymakers, yeah, exactly. In the States, we're at a critical point, right? I don't know if you've been following that with net neutrality, but
yeah, I think I read it. That there's a company that wants to establish faster internet for bigger companies to pass through.
There's mainly two main companies in the States providing data because they have all the pipelines from their old systems from cable TV, and the old CEO, not the CEO, but the people involved in that company are now running the FCC, which are supposed to be in charge of regulating them.
That's so scary.
Which is a big issue.
Yes.
I think his name's Tom Fielder. Tom Wheeler to Fielder, I forgot. Anyway, so what they did is they opened it up to suggestions because now they want to create two lanes, a fast lane and a slow lane on the internet to provide people that want better access to consumers, right?
Yeah.
So they're basically selling to high-end business people, like companies like Netflix and Hulu and things like that, which I think is pretty much the only legitimate gripe these companies have, is because they have to give free access to all these companies, and there's these 6 companies that are taking up, half of the bandwidth for everyone. So that's the only legitimate gripe I see. But of course, you and I, especially people that are in IT, we worry that as soon as that happens, then we lose our voice to the world. We lose being able to get our information out to everyone, especially.
And to collect the information we want,
Yeah, true.
both sides. So, and I think that's really an important issue these times.
Yeah, some people say, well, the First Amendment in the States is the right to free speech. And in my opinion, too, it's the First Amendment issue of our time.
And I think I read in the UN Human Rights Agreement, there's also an article referring to freedom of speech, and that this is linked to being able to get access to information.
Yeah, exactly. My thoughts, too.
Yeah, that's really bad, I think. Referring to those stakeholders, would it be okay to fill out that list? Because I have to ask different people about it, and I have to make sure that I don't miss stakeholders, but I can't suggest stakeholders for you. Otherwise, I would have filled the list before, so you wouldn't have to write so much. But then I would be influencing your answers.
Yeah, I'd fill something out. I mean, I'm still a little bit fuzzy on what exactly you want me to provide stakeholders as far as groups of people or areas of interest or.
Stakeholders are not are companies or the government or groups of people. Just what comes to your mind, who's important, no matter if it's a group of people or if it's a single person or if it's the government. So you don't have to write it in detail, just what you think.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
I'm going to post the link on Facebook. It's a really easy document from Google, so just write down.
It's a Google form.
Yes.
Okay. When what's your schedule like? Research schedule like? Are you still in the initial phases, or you
Yes.
haven't?
I kind of, how to say, I started this project or thinking about this project when I was working on my master thesis, but I couldn't focus on it, and then I started to work in an e-learning marketing company to finance writing my PhD. So I had not so much time, and I went rather, how to say, in Germany we say blue-eyed if you're going to start something and being naive with it.
Oh, wide-eyed. I think we might wide-eyed. Like, oh no, I don't know. Maybe blue-eyed is that what you call it?
Yeah.
So,
Blauäugig in Germany. It's like making big eyes and thinking, oh, that's nice, I could do this and I could do that, and I think it's going to work out. And then you meet reality and it's like.
I see. So jumping in before you know everything about it.
Yes, and when I arrived at my research institute here, I had some kind of several talks with the researchers here, and they looked at my approach and they said, well, this is and maybe you can change this. And so it was really good for me to be here, and I'm going to redefine my research approach, and I'm going to how to say, make it more detailed, and I'm going to do a lot of research when I'm back in Germany, and then I'm going back to Japan and how to say, do another round of field research. So, and I think, or I hope I can do some of this from Germany too, because we could be talking via Skype or Google Hangout. I mean, I could be in Germany at the moment as well. So,
Yeah.
I hope I'm going to be able to continue my research being in Germany too, and that I have contact with a lot of people when I'm coming back.
Well, I mean, I definitely want to keep in contact with you. You're one one of the first. There's only 2 or 3 other people I can think of that are actually, thinking about this in Japan. So
Yes, and I think especially concerning the more larger scale, there are a lot of people that are researching augmented reality in terms of what technology can be used and how far is the technology, but not so much about the general connection and the direction this is going to. I think it's very much into detail and not on the larger scale.
yeah, and maybe the psychological effect it will have on us.
Exactly.
Because cell phones are already starting to make us forget phone numbers and how to go places and things like that. So I think that all that stuff is going to be issues are going to be magnified by
exactly.
widespread use of this. Mm-hmm.
Makes me think of a friend who's using navigation while driving with the car, and we had a meeting and he was just not coming, and I was just like, where is he? And I tried to call him, but he didn't react. And I think maybe like 5 hours later he arrived and said, well, my battery went off and I couldn't use my navigator and my cell phone, and I had no idea what to do. I didn't even know where I was.
Yep.
And he had a map in the car.
And he had a map, and he still couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. So much for men being able reading maps and women not. I know how to read a map.
Well, I mean, the map doesn't help if you don't know where you're going, I guess, because, I mean, we don't really, put stuff into our long-term memory anymore. So, if we put it into the phone and we remember where to find it. I mean, and also we're in the age where we have to know so much more. There's so much information around us. So our long-term memory is getting more and more at a premium, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's it's too changing, well, how to say, the concept of education, because I remember my parents are like, I can quote Goethe like this, or Shakespeare,
Mm-hmm.
and they could quote like maybe the whole first chapter or something, and I'm just like, that's nice, but if I want to, I can look it up on Wikipedia or wherever, and maybe this is not the kind of knowledge that's used today anymore.
That's one of the things one of the topics in educational technology, which is what I'm studying now. Like, I always tell people this story. Like, when I was a kid, I would try and cheat and look at the back of the book for the answers. And the teacher would say, in life, there's never going to be a magic box where you can pull out all the answers. And of course, now you can just, talk right into your phone and Google it, and there you go. It's the magic box. So, and as educators looking into the future, you can't really test or assess anymore on hard facts. Like, if you ask a question like, what's the capital of something? I mean, even if you have augmented reality and it's got some sort of microphone with speech recognition, that answer is just automatically going to be given to them. So you have to start testing and assessing on the synthesis and combination of concepts and ideas rather than facts and procedures.
Yes.
So, I mean, and in that sense too, though, because that's going to even make it worse in the future. So, because in education, you don't have to put stuff in your head. So, if you don't have access to if you go through an educational system your whole life learning like that, and all of a sudden the net goes away, you don't know anything.
That's true. I think I once saw a science fiction movie where you didn't go to school, but you got the education implanted into your head on microchips, and then if the people did something bad, it was just removed.
Yep, you lose your access or whatever.
Yeah, your knowledge and your social position and everything.
There were definitely interesting times ahead.
I think so too. I'm just wondering if we are when we are going to be old, if we are going to look on the new technology that our grandchildren are using and saying, oh no, it was all better in the past, and no, I don't know how to use it.
But I mean, I don't exactly know how old you are, but I think I'm at that perfect age where, like when I was a kid, we had computers, but they were big and hunky and they didn't do much. They sat on your desk. So in my lifetime, we went from no internet and had computers to smartphones in the pocket. So we've seen kind of the whole progression of technology and that as it's starting to take off.
Yeah, that's true. When I was a child, I was not aware of anything like computers or that stuff. I was when I met with friends when I was like 10 years old or something. We didn't have any cell phones to tell I'm coming later or go ahead. We meet somewhere else, but we were just waiting
Hmm.
for each other.
Yep. And kids today, I mean, I see so many times now where kids, little kids, like barely able to talk, will go up to a TV screen and try and swipe it and things like that. So in the future, I made this joke with augmented reality. Kids are going to be going up to random objects like a door and trying to swipe it to open it, not
I
even
I, I
trying
just
to open the handle.
I saw something like this in Germany. I was riding on a train, and there was I don't know. I think it was a grandmother and her grandchild, and the grandchild was like 4 years old or something, and she was showing photographs to him, and he was just like, "It's not getting bigger. I want to see something."
Big little. Where is it? Yeah.
Yes, I was feeling like in a movie or something.
Yeah, because Matayo's working on that thermal touch and the scanning and stuff too. So in the future, like even just people want to be touching regular objects and it's not working, and it's just
It's like Scotty in the Star Trek movie
no, it's
when
yeah.
computer.
Oh yeah, when he picks up the mouse, kind of like
Yeah.
this, it goes computer. Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, if you transport, that would be interesting experiment if we had time travel. Like take someone that's grew up in this digital age and put them back in a computer seat and see how they would react.
Yeah, with those how are those things called? Those cards with the holes in it.
Yeah, because you couldn't even operate those computers back in the day if you didn't have some rudimentary programming skills. So
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a scary thing too because everyone is using computers and most people have no idea of how to program anything and how these things are working.
I think as far as numbers go, like if you take how many people that could program then and now, it's like exponentially more people, but it's still like the maybe the percentage is still quite low probably
I think
because
so.
more people are using it.
Yes, I think go 15 years back and all people that were working with computers or related with them had a basic idea of how those things are done.
Hmm.
I think most of them could have answered this question, and I don't know, ask my mother now, and she's going to say, "What?"
Well, that's just the thing too. Like programming is no longer a necessary required skill either, especially
Yeah.
if you're a creator and designer. Take for example the Matayo product with the creator. You can make AR objects and things like that without any programming skills. And that goes with now creating websites. I mean, I used to have run a BBS maybe 20 some years ago, and you would have to program in BASIC to get a kind of internet site up. And then after that, you had to know HTML and then
Yeah, I
CSS and
don't
all this stuff. And now you
HTML.
don't even have to know any of that. You just have to.
Drag and drop.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are also the same thing is happening with 3D building content and programs like Maya or Blender. They are
Hmm.
quite complicated and there you have to know how it works. But if you're going to use something like Sculptris or how is it called? The thing that SketchUp.
Or SketchUp, yeah, that's a Google thing, right? Yeah.
It was. It's. I think it departed from Google and it's now an own company or it was bought from somebody else. But Sculptris and SketchUp are quite easy to use. You don't have to know very much.
you'll have to share those out with me because I want to create some 3D models for the textbook and stuff that I'm creating, but I haven't really done much with 3D modeling. I'm pretty good with the Adobe suite, making illustrations and things like that, but 3D stuff is I need to learn.
I want to learn it more too, because I can build some things, and I build quite a lot in this cloud party environment, but I work together with people that are kind of gods compared to me. What they can do with those 3D programs is really awesome. The names of the programs I just mentioned are such as I'm writing it into Facebook. SketchUp, anyway, I think.
SketchUp I know. SketchUp I actually have and have used.
You have the, how to say, the free license or the paid license?
I don't have, yeah, free license.
I think that's enough for most things. The real hard things about building 3D is not building the 3D objects, but doing the texture. And I think if you are good with the Adobe suite, that's no problem for you.
Yeah, because I wanted to make, one of the things I want to make in the next couple of weeks is a 3D model of the TEDx Kyoto logo.
Mm-hmm.
But and that seems like it would be quite easy because I can make it quite easily in Photoshop, make it look like it's 3D, but it doesn't export a 3D model. like I can make it look 3D and I can manipulate it in in 3 dimensions inside Photoshop, but it doesn't export a 3D model. So
maybe I can help you with that.
Sure. Does Blender and Maya have a free version?
Blender, yes, Blender is absolutely free, and Blender is kind of complicated to use, but there are good tutorials on YouTube, and Maya is tremendously expensive.
Is there a high learning curve for both of those, probably?
Yes.
Steep learning curve, yeah, I would think so.
It's quite hard, both of them. Do you know Video to Brain?
Video to Brain? I don't think so.
That's how to say, they collected programs like, I think even Excel, but also Blender and Maya, and they are quite good tutorials to see.
Okay.
I was told those are the best. I didn't try them out yet.
I subscribe to Lynda, if you know that one. Lynda.com.
No.
They have, if you want to learn any professional software like Maya, Blender, Photoshop, all that stuff, and they have professional courses, video courses online, and it's like $15 a month or something.
And that's, how is it called? Lynda?
Lynda, Lynda, I think. Lynda.com, and they have the most professional courses, and you can watch all you want for I think it's $15 US a month.
That's not so much.
But yeah, I mean, I used it a lot when I was learning After Effects and Adobe Premiere because I was making some educational videos a couple years ago. I haven't even used it recently though. But if I wanted to learn Blender and stuff, that's probably where I'd turn first.
Yeah, I think if they're good, I would go there too.
All right. Do you have I got a meeting coming up here in about 15, 20 minutes. So if there's anything else you need to ask, we probably need to wrap up pretty soon if you don't mind.
One more question, I think.
Okay.
You said, do you think that there's going to be like one augmented reality standard for, let's say, the mobile augmented reality apps?
A standard, yeah. I mean, they were talking
for users only.
For
just
users.
Like, let's say all users are only going to download Junayo and access with it every augmented reality content that's not like e-learning in a company or something.
Well, it's hard for me to imagine a company like Mataio being able to almost monopolize the AR market as far as content and usage. If you want to talk about standardization, it probably might come about where two or three of these companies make some sort of standard way to make content and use it. So maybe like two or three companies like Asano and Mataio, or two or three, they collaborate in the way that the system accepts new content,
Mm-hmm.
and that might become a standard. I mean, just like in e-learning, we have something called SCORM compliant.
Yeah, I know SCORM.
So that came about in almost the same way. Everyone was making their own LMS, and then after a while, all the colleges said, we want to be able to use your system and vice versa. So they came up with this standard to use between them. So I can imagine that happening with AR too. But it's hard for me to think that like one, because the app market is so saturated, right? So there's so many people out there trying to make their edge, make their mark, with almost doing the same thing, trying to make niches here and there. So it's hard to see like one app really controlling everything, because you can't even do that now with music and video, right? So
That's true. Mm.
but yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, maybe, I don't know, I don't know if that's going to be far in the future, or maybe some sort of standard way to make and create the the uh, the content for augmented reality and the triggers and whatnot.
I think so. Okay, then I don't want to keep you from your next meeting.
Oh, this was a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And yeah, let's hopefully keep in touch. I know you want me to do a couple other things, so.
Yes.
And
But if you have questions or need some help with 3D building, even if I may be not able to answer those questions, I have a lot of friends who are building 3D content, and I can ask them as well. So
great.
please just tell me, let me know.
And if you want to, you and your fiance, I think you said?
Yeah.
If you guys want to come to TEDx Kyoto and either just enjoy the speakers or see what we're doing with AR and maybe do some filming, or maybe experiment and help me, collect data or whatever, that'd be great.
I think I'm sure I'm going to come over. Just maybe I have to arrange with my fiance if he's coming along or staying here. Hey, there you are from Germany. We didn't see for a year, but okay, I have to go now.
I mean, if this is his first time in Japan, you're going to want to show him Kyoto anyway. It's a great place to visit. So.
Yeah, we have planned visiting Kyoto too, but I think not so early. He made a great plan with Excel, and there's everything inside.
Oh, okay. So you might throw a whole big wrench into his meticulous plan. Okay.
But he knows that I have to work at least until end of September, so he can't say anything against it until.
Oh, so you have an open schedule. Okay, so all right.
Yeah, because this is my scholarship is going until 1st of October, and I want to dedicate this time completely to my research and not to private stuff. So, but I think I have to pick him up anyway.
Oh, at the airport?
Yes.
Well, if you were nice, you'd want to do that anyway, right?
Yes. And I kind of miss him, and I want to see him again. It's quite some time, but.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, I'd like to meet him too, if it's possible. Sure.
Yeah, I will drag him along.
All right, great.
Okay, then thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll be talking again sometime, I'm sure.
I hope so. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.